An army of Furbies that won't stop chanting the Lord's Prayer.
A can of rigatoni on the street.
Going over to a friend's house for a sleepover for the first time, and their dad wants them to pop a cyst on his back, but they're really squeamish and faint, but he's in a lot of pain, so you have to do it.
Papa.
What happened?
Hello everyone, welcome to Next in the Queue. If it's your first time here, Next in the Queue is an interview-based podcast that connects listeners with musicians, writers, producers, anyone really in the industry through curated playlists. Today, I'm finally joined with Leah from Dazey and the Scouts. If you guys knew how long we've been trying to do this, like, I run into you all the time. Like, you're like one of the top people that I run into by accident. And the first time you try to orchestrate something on purpose, it's taken us.
Takes forever.
Taken us forever.
I because I'm always out at things, and you know that because you always see me out at things. Because I'm afraid to be home.
Yeah.
Because that would mean I'd have to clean my room.
True. My room's your room is just like a place where you sleep and rest. And
Truly.
Then, you know, that's like the same with my room. My room is actually like atrocious right now. I feel like someone's like, oh, your room's messy. No, it's like messy in a way that no human being should be living.
No human being should be living. Mine is just, it's gotten to like kind of a fever pitch of all of my gear. Like I have a wall, it's just amps. And then I have like racks and racks of like all my different synths and pedals and the boxes that they come in. And then I have a desk. And I just have to literally, like, I have to climb over my pedal steel to get into my bed. And I know this all sounds, like, cool and romantic, but it's not. Like, I look like a slob. Like, I'm really, like, my room is just covered with, like, wires and stuff. It's very embarrassing. I can never, like, invite people back to my room because my room looks like a Guitar Center storage back room.
Yeah, right now my room, like, I'm wearing athleisure right now because I have no clothes. Like, these are like, this is my last pair of pants. And I need to do laundry tomorrow. Will I?
Will we? Stay tuned.
We'll see. Okay, so you were in Dazey and the Scouts, and recently, back in March, you guys had your first headlining show in New York. It was out Elsewhere.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
shout out Elsewhere
a little bit. But like before, leading up to the selling out of Elsewhere, like how did you hear about blowing up on TikTok and all of that thing?
It was kind of like a weirdly gradual thing. We always had like a decent kind of local following in Boston that felt maybe like a little slightly above average. Like we obviously had gotten on like someone's Spotify playlist or something a while ago. I think we were like on a Spotify editorial, like the queercore playlist or something. And I think it was just, through the pandemic, we started seeing a bunch of numbers kind of rising when people were just home and exploring things. But we weren't really like on TikTok. It wasn't until kind of winter 2021 or like late 2020 that we actually kind of went on TikTok and looked and were like, oh shit, this is kind of a lot. And the numbers went really, really, really crazy. There was just like this moment of, I think Riot Girl aesthetics and Riot Girl revival was kind of happening for all of the kind of, younger high schoolers who were home, who were just kind of diving into internet subcultures really, really hard and kind of like trying to find their own identity in that way during the pandemic, like during the really deep part of the pandemic, like spring 2020. And we were just one of those bands that kind of came up, I think, because people were into that sound, but we're kind of trying to talk about maybe some recent bands that had either aged well politically or were like kind of newer and weren't from the 90s, and then people started listening to us, and I don't know. So
yeah, like what was your first reaction to like kind of finding out? Were you excited, scared? What was the overall feeling?
I was excited. I was overwhelmed. I was very, very overwhelmed. At first, I kind of dove into it, like I made a little TikTok and I was like posting and kind of like interacting with as much as I could. And then I very quickly got overwhelmed because TikTok horrifies me. It scares me. And, you know, then, of course, at the same time, we're getting, like, thousands of Instagram followers and shit, and it's just, it all was just very overwhelming. It all felt like so much. But overall, very positive emotions for me. I know there were some complicated emotions kind of overall, just because, you know, we're not an active band. We're all kind of in different places in our lives. And, you know, I think there was a little bit of fear that people would be turned off by seeing that we're not like that anymore. There's a little bit of, like, will you still like the person I am now? But, you know, I think we just kind of tried to take it little by little and work through that. And I don't know, I kind of tried to lean into the aspect of it that is that, like, I am who I am now and I'm not who I was when I recorded the album.
Yeah, because I feel like 2017, were you still in college?
Oh, yeah. All the Dazey songs were written, like, when I was a freshman in college.
So, yeah, you're, like, freshman in college is such a lifetime. I mean, it's not that long ago, but, you know, it feels like a lifetime away. Like, I'm not the same person I was, like, freshman in high school.
I'm not the same person I was either, at all. And it's funny because me and Otto and Brent all went kind of very different directions too, in terms of, like, what we're doing musically. So I don't know, I think it was cool, and I think we were all nervous at first about how that would play off, but it seems like people kind of can appreciate or maybe even find something kind of comforting about this, like, idea that, you know, you can release one thing and be this one person, then a few years later be someone different but still organic and still happy and still a good person. You're just different. I don't know. I think a lot of our fans are in high school, so hopefully they were able to see that and feel more comfortable about their own growth as people or artists or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like you guys got, like, the leeway because it blew up after the fact.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually, I mean, fans of, like, different artists that, like, blew up the traditional way, like, get turned off by them expressing themselves in, like, a different creative outlet. Like, if their, like, sound doesn't sound the same. And, like, I can get that at times, you know?
Oh, yeah,
like,
absolutely.
You like what you like.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? But since you didn't have, like, the pressure of, like, having to, like, continue and, like, you know, trying to appease people.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like it had, like, a nice happy ending.
It did have a nice happy ending, and that's how I felt about the Elsewhere shows. To me, it just felt like this really beautiful happy ending of, like, this, you know, closing of a big golden book is kind of how I felt afterwards. That's, like, what really would get me emotional, is it just felt like, and even I still get a little teared up when I think about it, because it just, I think, I can't actually speak for the others, but I personally felt like a lot of kind of peace and closure and kind of pride in myself that I had never felt artistically before. Just because, you know, it is cool to have a lot of people love and resonate with art you made, but it's also like, I don't know, I think about who I was at that time, and I just felt like such a dumbass, and I was so confused and sad, and honestly a lot of it I was just pretty mentally ill, and just to kind of be able to close that cycle and still be able to say that, like, you know, I consider the other people in the band, like, friends still, and we all are doing things that make us feel happy now, and there's, like, no love lost. I don't know, it was really nice. It was really, really nice, and I felt at peace. I didn't feel the urge to force anything more than what we already got, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like there's been, like, a comeback of a lot of bands that have had, like, songs or, like, albums blow up on TikTok.
Yeah.
Who just continue, even though, like, they know it's not something that they want to, like, do.
Exactly.
They're just doing it because, like, and you can't blame them. Like,
exactly.
why wouldn't you want to, like, ride the horse until it's, like,
until the horse dies? Yeah. I mean, the temptation was there, but I don't know. I very much, whenever we would talk about our plans, you know, I think all three of us wanted slightly different things. And I just was very kind of adamant for myself. I just wanted to play this show and see how I felt after playing this show. And I'm glad I did, because I just felt like a lot of peace and a lot of closure after playing the show. And, you know, I never like to fully close a door on something. So I don't know if the future holds anything else. Yeah. Like, I don't like to close the door on anything, but, like, I'm just very at peace with it. And it was really special, and thank you for being a part of it, because you were a part of it. I know. So, yeah, that's that band.
Yeah, it was a crazy lineup.
It was a really cool
Gully
lineup.
Boys and Model Actress.
Model Actress. That was another. Oh my god, that was another thing that made me cry like a fucking baby, because Cole from Model Actress. You know, me and Brennan and Cole are all very close friends, but Cole is really like probably like my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
We've been besties since we met at summer camp in high school. Like, so getting to play a show of that nature, because the Dazey and the Scouts and Model Actress like started at the same time too, at Berkeley. Like, we played some of our first shows together, and yeah, it was just super special. And Gully Boys just rules. They were just in New York a couple of days ago, but I didn't get to see them because I was at work. Because they played, you know, when Mercury Lounge has like those shows, they're just early as shit.
Yeah, they have so.
That I'm not gonna talk shit about Mercury Lounge on the air. It's not. I'm not mad at Mercury Lounge. I just, you know.
I have like love-hate relationship. I feel like Babies does it a little bit better.
Babies does it, yeah.
A little bit better, but yeah, because I went to an early show at Mercury, and the doors were at 6, and I was like, oh, okay, so 7 is when the opener's gonna go on. I got there at 7. Opener done.
Opener done. The opener went on at like what, 6:15, 6:30 or something. Yeah.
Opener done.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was a bummer, because I wanted to go see them, but yeah, it was a great set. It was just like a great show, kind of all the way around. I was at Zone 1 the very next day, seeing some other friends. Really a surreal experience. So thank you for everything Elsewhere did. I hope y'all liked the cookies that they brought.
They were delicious. Okay, so let's rewind.
Yeah.
Back to like the beginning of Dazey and the Scouts. Like, when did you guys first decide to like create?
So Dazey and the Scouts kind of started as, I mean, I guess, you know, this always feels like a weird thing to say, but I guess it was like my idea originally. I had a couple songs written when I got to Berkeley that I wrote in high school, and I had the name and the idea of having this kind of band, and we would dress up like Girl Scouts or whatever. And Brennan lived on my floor, and I just remember seeing them post, like, in the Berkeley class of 2019, like, little Facebook group or whatever, like, the meet your new classmates thing, and just being like, oh, I gotta be friends with this bitch. Mm-hmm. And then Brennan turned out to be, like, my actual neighbor. And one day, very early on, I was like, we should be friends, and they walked out of their room, and they were wearing actually, like, a little brownie vest, like a Girl Scout vest, just, like, as an accessory. And I was like, I have this idea. Yeah. Like, we should do this. And then Brennan had a show on the Berkeley Internet Radio and was getting trained, and Otto was the person who was training Brennan. And we just kind of became friends with them. We asked them. And then we had, at first, Austin was just like a friend of ours who played drums. But yeah, me and Brennan, it was really just like we lived on the same floor. They came out of their room wearing a Girl Scout vest.
And we're like, this is perfect.
Let's do it. And a lot of their songs, the early songs, this one fucking album, a lot of like the first songs we wrote were really just Brennan would walk down the hall to my room with my roommate Hannah. We would just like drink like the cheapest, shittiest wine and just write these silly little songs, like truly heinous, corny, no one will ever hear. Like, there are so many scrapped songs that were just mentally ill as hell, like the stupidest things you've ever heard, just lots of little inside jokes we would have, and then every now and then one of them actually stuck. Like, you know, James Dean, You Let Us Down was definitely one of the stupider songs. It was really just us talking shit about James Dean, the porn star, when he got outed as an abuser. But yeah, that's really how it got started. And then, you know, the only two songs that weren't written really during that time of just silliness were Maggot and Sweet 16. Sweet 16 is Otto's song. Featured some poetry because they would do like slam poetry, spoken word. So they wrote a song and included one of their poems, which I loved. And also Maggot, which was just like the last song that was written for the album, very personal song for me. I did write it in the hospital. I'm bipolar. And I don't know, it just was very, very sentimental. But that was like the last one. And then it was all very organic. It was truly just mostly just like fucking around in our Berkeley dorm rooms and then like going to shows and then coming back from those shows to our little dorm rooms and writing silly songs.
Was there anyone that you saw that kind of like inspired you out there? Or?
Yeah, so there were a few really great kind of bands of Berkeley folks that were like older. They were seniors when we were freshmen. The really big one was this band Dent. It was kind of like a weird kind of like avant-garde like death metal band, but also has like kind of like just like it had some like death and thrash, had some punk kind of more like punky elements. It was really a funky band, to be honest. Like, especially now that I've become like truly like a metalhead, that was a funky band. Yeah, that was Lane from Elizabeth Color Wheel, which is another very important band to me, especially. You know, Lane from Elizabeth Color Wheel and also has her own music as Lane Otioni. She was the front woman, and it was like our first weekend at Berkeley, and it was like the first basement show we went to, and there were a few kind of like heavier bands because for some reason that particular crop just had a lot more heavy music. It wasn't just indie or lo-fi or whatever. Like they were actually like metal bands. And I was only a little bit of a metal fan because I was very on Mew in high school. So, like, I liked Death Heaven and stuff like that. And then I saw them in this basement, and it just, like, totally changed my whole life. And for some reason, I was like, damn, like, I need to start a band. I want to play in these basements. I don't know why. I just, like, have never actually thought about doing this. There was no scene growing up for me in North Carolina, so it was just never.
What part of North Carolina are you
I'm from.
Oh wow, really? Okay, well
Yeah.
I'm from South Carolina, but like,
Wait, where are you from?
Rock, like near Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean, there's no.
Whenever anyone's from,
yeah, exactly.
That's why we both moved, because like, what's there to do in South
What's
Carolina?
there to do?
What's
Exactly. So I don't know. That was really profound. That particular band, and you know, also there's this band Bat House that played on the bill. Elizabeth Color Wheel was Lane's other band. Let's see. Yeah, there was like Lady Pills also. They were kind of in that scene as well. There were like there were a bunch of cool like kind of like punk bands doing it at the time. Like I guess Cersei had ended, and there was also this band like Dump Him that was very cool. There was a lot of cool like queer music being made in Boston. Boston kind of has a constant flow of bands because of all the college students. So I guess we just landed there at a moment where all the people who were, you know, in their later years being in the scene just happened to be really, really good. And yeah, I mean, it was wonderful to see. Totally changed my life. Brennan was at that show with me too. I don't think Otto was at that show. We didn't know Otto yet. That was like truly like first weekend in Boston was that show. So.
Now you have your like another project that you're a part of.
I have a few.
A few. You mentioned Bat House. You were supposed to play a show with them like such a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was like
they got COVID.
Yeah, they got COVID. Bat House, Twin, and Bug Fight.
Yeah. So Bug Fight is one of my projects. Bug Fight is it's probably my silliest project. That was a band that started in Boston. I was not in, and they all kind of moved to different cities and then started Bug Fight in those cities. It's a franchise band. So there's an LA Bug Fight and a New York Bug Fight, and the LA Bug Fight is a lot more kind of chill and I guess kind of tighter, and the New York Bug Fight is a lot more hectic and I scream, and it's a lot more noisy. So that's a fun band, but I mostly am playing heavier music now. But no one, everyone assumes Bug Fight's my main project, which much love to Bug Fight, but it's just because my other bands don't really like, one of them hasn't really played in New York, so I'm in this band Non with Jack, who's the drummer from Dazey and the Scouts, who was the drummer in that band Dent that was so important to us. And we have it's like a black gaze, kind of like post-black metal, scrams kind of thing. So kind of more post-metal stuff. And then I recently, I've filled in for a bunch of bands here and there. I've played a bit with this band Cowardice from New Jersey, just like a good sludge doom metal band, just like heavy ass, sounds like Thou, opened for Thou. That rocks because I love Thou. So I played around with them just on different instruments depending on where they need me, and probably gonna play some more shows with them this fall. And I'm working on my own music as well, but it's mostly heavier stuff. But I think that's another thing about the Dazey and the Scouts thing is like, I know most of the people who like Dazey and the Scouts are not gonna like the dumb metal stuff that I like now. But that's okay, because that's just what I do. It's what makes me happy now. So,
and you'll find another group of people that will appreciate.
Exactly. I'll find some idiots to listen to my music.
And Brennan makes music too.
Brennan makes music
in Nashville.
In Nashville. Brennan's music is fantastic. Brennan's music is so fucking good. They're just doing, even when Dazey and the Scouts was active, Brennan was doing Brennan and the Bats, which I also kind of played in at one point. They had their solo project, and they've just kind of performed it in different ways with different people. So they've been doing that as long as I've known them, because Brennan really, they have a punk spirit, but truly at their heart, like they're a folk person. They love Bob Dylan, and I always remembered that about them. And Brennan's music is incredible. So they're in Nashville doing the kind of folky, country-ish with a twang, Gillian Welch type beat music. And then Otto, I think Otto is playing around in a couple bands, and I know they've like kind of on and off over the years like been talking about that they do have their own music that they're gonna release at some point, but they also, just like I went down the guitar rabbit hole, Otto went down the synth rabbit hole, which is a lot scarier. So I know they're just making all sorts of beeps and boops, and I would love for them to release like a techno album or an ambient album or something.
Yeah, I feel like it's cool to see like how your taste is like each of you have gone like a different route, and it's like
different route.
And
yeah,
that's that's part of growing up, I feel like there's like different like sections of your life, like what I listened to in middle school is not what I listened to in high school. What I listened to in high school is not what I listened to in college. And what I listened to in college is not what I listen to now. And it's just kind of crazy to see like how like what influences, like, because you guys were all in a band together and like have like dispersed into your like own niches.
Own little niches.
So different.
I think one thing that's so striking about the fan base of Dazey and the Scouts is that a lot of them are really like, some of them are 15, 16 years old, and they're already in the know about some random ass like surf punk band that was active in Boston for like a year and a half. Like, how do y'all know about all that? And it kind of, I don't know, I find it really sweet and really cool that people are so much cooler than I was at that age. And it makes me, it gives me, I would never write them off. Like, I know that the people who are immediate fans of Dazey and the Scouts might not like if I put out a black metal album, or they might not like if I, put out some like ambient music or something, or Otto puts out a techno album. But the same way we've grown over the years, they might too. And then maybe they'll come back to it and they'll be like, oh, I understand how we went from point A to point B. Like, I get how someone could go from being in this band to being into this. I think it's all very interconnected, and a lot of what that band was, more than anything, was just kind of fun and catharsis. Like, we weren't doing it to be a part of a specific scene or to sound like a specific band. We were just writing the songs and having fun and being just kind of enjoying the last vestiges of like a somewhat carefree life as being young people. And yeah, it just it was all just so natural and so organic that anything that could come after just has to make sense.
Okay, before we like wrap
Yeah.
up and get into the play.
Oh, sure.
One final question.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so fuck, marry, kill.
Fuck, marry, kill. Yeah.
An army of Furbies.
Oh, lol.
That
Chanting the
won't stop
Lord's
this
Prayer, yeah.
Going over to a friend's house for a sleepover for the first time.
Popping a cyst on the dad's back. For me, and then can of rigatoni in the street. Can of rigatoni, marry can of rigatoni in the street. No question. Fuck the army of Furbies singing the Lord's Prayer, because, like, that's kind of, you know, I wouldn't want that all the time, but it could be kind of like a fun, kinky experience. Kill popping the zist on your dad's back.
I feel like that's automatic kill.
That is the automatic kill. It's the gross one. That was the one I came up with. I feel really bad. That's actually probably the thing on the album I'm the most ashamed of, is that I just had the least funny fuck, marry, kill.
You're like, what could I think of?
Why wasn't I thinking of something funnier? Yeah, I could have thought of something so much funnier and I just didn't. But I don't know. What about you?
Not to be a copier,
But like, I feel like I feel like the can of rigatoni is too
the can
obvious.
of rigatoni on the street, like, is the obvious, you know, marry.
Can of rigatoni can hold you down, you know what I mean? Like, that's what
and
I
it's
want to
just,
come
like,
home to at the
The
end of the
Furbies
day.
chanting the Lord's Prayer is just like traumatizing, going back to being in like a Catholic school.
Wait, you're from South Carolina, and you also went to Catholic school in South Carolina. Damn.
Yeah. So
Damn.
I'd have to do that because I would kill the Furbies, but the cyst on the back is just, it's too much. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. The cyst on the back is too much. Damn, Catholic school in South Carolina. Sorry, I'm thinking about that. That's like so much. I went to a tiny school in Will, and just gotta get out there. Wait, when did you move?
I moved here literally in September.
In September.
Yeah, but I went to college in Miami. So
Okay, sure.
I've kind of been not there for a while.
I was gonna say the accent is not.
Yeah,
It's not
I mean,
there.
my parents are also like immigrants, so like they
Yeah.
don't have an accent. So
Sure.
I don't think I developed one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like having a southern accent would be cool to add to my character. You know.
I agree, and I actually have like lately. I went on a tour with Non, like the Black Gaze band, right before the pandemic. Month of January, I was on tour. We went down south, and as soon as we crossed from like Richmond to North Carolina, I sounded like a different fucking person. I sounded like a truly different person in a way that I didn't realize until my bandmates were like, Leah, are you faking this? And I was like, no, I'm not faking this. I actually just have an accent, and it only really comes out up here. I feel like if I get drunk and let myself go, I sound like I'm from North Carolina, but I don't right now.
Yeah.
And it kills me. I wish I had a cute little accent.
The only thing that like I do, but it's like it's more common now, is like
Yeah.
saying y'all.
Y'all,
But that's so
yeah.
common now. So like I remember when I originally went to Miami, because like a lot of people, like no one said y'all, and they're like, why do you say that? And I'm like,
No one says y'all in Miami?
yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was like,
God.
what?
That feels
I feel like that's
silly
like
to
the
me.
least southern thing to say.
I know. I mean, y'all is just, first of all, everyone says y'all. Second of all, Miami just has to set themselves apart. Like, oh, we're not like the rest of Florida. We're Miami. Come on, y'all. I don't know. There's still a few things. Like, I feel like when I leave work, I'm always like, bye, y'all.
Yeah, like the only person that's
way.
ever said I've had a southern accent are my cousins, but they're from the UK. So
They're from the UK, so
it's like I don't trust your opinion.
they think everyone in America is gonna talk like this.
And that's their go-to accent. Yeah, it is a go-to. It's either like southern or like like the OG California.
Yeah. They never go for like the New York Jersey.
Yeah, they never do that.
That's like, I also think I have not a super strong accent because my dad is like a New York Bronx Jewish dude, and then my mom is like from a rural, like a pig farm in North Carolina. And she doesn't even have, she's like from like rural North Carolina, and like everyone in her family is super, super strong accent, but she barely has one either. And my dad has a New York accent. It's very cute. But anyway, sorry. enough about this. Let's talk about blood.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been excited about doing this because I love your playlist idea, and I'm so excited to talk about it because it like lets me be a teenage girl again.
Absolutely.
So for your topic, you decided to pick vampires.
Vampires. I love vampires.
So you get to go into the lore of vampires and just like, were you a vampire girl in middle school, or were you like what got you into?
I have always been a vampire girl. It has preceded Twilight, but I have always been a vampire girl. I mentioned Twilight not as like a pinnacle of vampire culture, although I do think it is an important touchstone. Actually, I didn't put it in the playlist, but I thought about putting like a supermassive black hole in the playlist.
Or Decode.
Decode, exactly. Because I did put a few songs in the playlist that were just like prominently featured in like various vampire movies that I like notable songs. And yeah, but I was always a vampire girl. I love fantasy. I love high fantasy, but not in a way like I always loved vampires. I always loved Tolkien. I always loved medieval shit. I always loved Greek mythology. I believed there were fairies in my backyard for a very long time. I love fantasy. But vampires were always vampires and witches, but especially vampires were always my favorite. And as I got older, it kind of only got more pronounced because vampires and their implications, they're cool and they're very sexy, and I think that there's a lot of history and a lot of psychology and a lot of philosophy around what makes vampires so cool, and it's just something I've kind of carried with me as this kind of cultural touchstone that kind of always brings me artistic and like sensory satisfaction whenever I'm watching a vampire movie or listening to music that makes me feel vampiric. I have fangs and I wear fangs all the time.
They look so good.
Thank you. But so yeah, I have always been. Were you a vampire girl?
Yeah, I was like. Okay. The majority of the books I read were vampire related or like paranormal related. I was very into like, I feel like I read at like, there's only 2 vampire series that I've like read all the way through, but I would like read all of the series. Like I tried reading the Vampire Diaries at one point.
Yeah, that was the one I never got. Sorry, continue. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Like when like the show started, it's so rough like reading a book and then like the show starts and it just like ends up like not aligning. So
yeah,
like there's like first episode they go off script and you're like, okay, so what's the point of reading this anymore? And there's so many books. I feel like they might still even be doing them.
They probably do.
L.J. Smith was like queen of writing vampire books. Like she had like big ones too. I can't even remember what the series are called. But I read Twilight, Vampire Academy. I was a little more. I read Twilight, but I was a classics girly. I did read Dracula. I liked Anne Rice, and I feel like there were just a few other. Not even anything I can think of off the top of my head, just like other random little books. I also was just like, I enjoyed reading folklore books. Like I remember growing up, I used to have a lot of those big kind of anthology books that would be like different countries or different kind of like cultures, just like books of folklore. So, just reading about, pretty much every culture has multiple vampire figures, you know what I mean? Whether it is, something more like a chupacabra type blood-sucking beast, or it's a succubus, or it's actually a vampire, or it's, like a demon or a dibuk or something. Every culture has vampires. And there were just like a few kind of stories that I always really enjoyed, and there were also a few books of like kind of more regionally specific southern folklore that would have vampire tales in them as well that I really liked, because I do like
I know. He's
You guys
so
can't
cute.
see this. Lou is going to town on the couch.
Lou, and then Lou's giving us the eyes to be like, you can't be mad at me. But anyway, yeah. I was a little bit of a reader, but more of like a films person.
What films did you watch?
Oh, I mean, pretty much all of them. And when we get into the playlist, I'll point out which songs I put in the playlist that are connected to movies that have vampires I particularly like or resonate with. A lot of my favorite vampire movies I didn't watch until I was older because they were more explicit. I was saying one of the things I include in there, let's see, there's Daughters of Darkness, which is one I didn't watch till I was older. It's like a more erotic, very kind of like psychological film. It's like a French film. It's like a lesbian vampire movie. It's really pretty fucked up. But I put part of the score in there because it has this like really kind of like sultry 70s like lounge score that's just very very cool. I put also in the playlist, let's see, I put something from Only Lovers Left Alive. One of my favorite vampires because, and people always mention this movie to me because they know that I love/am a vampire, and also have a thing for vintage guitars. So that whole part of the movie where he's this like washed up rocker who has his plug bring him various vintage guitars and he decides whether or not he likes them. I'm like, that's so me. That's literally what I do. I skulk, I show up to work in all black and I look online and I'm like, ugh, not that, not that, that one. That's literally just what I do for a living. So, anyway, I mean, I could go down that rabbit hole, but, anyway, what were your favorite vampire movies?
Vampire movies? Only Lovers Left Alive. Twilight. Queen of the Damned.
Love Queen of the Damned. I did put a Queen of the Damned moment in my playlist as well.
And then, like, I would watch things that, like, I should not have been watching. Like, I watched True Blood.
True Blood? I was gonna get into True Blood because I watched True Blood when I was not old enough to, and I think it is the reason that I have some of these
Were you Team Bill?
fucked up fantasies.
Were you Team Bill or Team Eric? Or
I mean, I don't want to be Team Eric because he's not a good man, but I love a bad boy.
No, yeah. I think because I was talking to my roommate earlier, and we were delving back into True Blood, and I was like, I think I'm Team Eric, but I literally haven't watched it in so long that I don't know if I would be now.
Well, it's just like, you're gonna make me choose between an ex-Confederate soldier and an ex-Nazi. Like, don't make me do that. Well, I guess Eric at least was like killing Nazis.
Yeah, and like,
But he's, I don't know, Alexander Skarsgård could just
exactly,
get it any which way.
I love him so much. Like, started my obsession with him. Like, I watch anything that he's in, just from True Blood.
Oh yeah, I mean, just from True Blood. I was obsessed with that show. You know, I was Team Lana.
Team Lana.
I liked her. Being a bisexual, she was just wonderful. Yeah, that show, I watched that show in middle school. That was definitely one of those things where, like, you know, we had HBO, and when my parents would, like, leave me home alone, I would watch True Blood, and then as soon as I heard the car pull into the driveway, I'd stop watching True Blood. I rewatched it during the pandemic, just for the rush, and I forgot, it's a pretty bad show.
I feel like I need to rewatch because I like don't remember. I remember
trash.
big things. I don't remember any of like the small plot lines.
Honestly, I feel like what I remembered the most about True Blood, like the really impactful things, like I remembered specific sex scenes. Like I carried those with me more than I carried the plot of the show itself. I just remember various sex scenes that I saw when I was 12 years old, and I was like, huh.
Yeah, even what I
something.
do remember, I'm like.
Yeah, it's really horribly written, and the later seasons are just a monstrosity. It's really not a good show.
I didn't get past like the vampire disease part. I never finished it. I didn't get past that, and then I stopped watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many, like, cause you know when like something goes on for too long, they just get to the point where like we can do anything.
We can do anything. We were renewed for another season, and y'all are coming down with us. Yeah, that's True Blood. Really did feel like one of those shows that they dragged us into the hole with them. I felt like I was being forced at gunpoint to watch the later seasons.
Yeah, one of like the funniest plot lines to me was like the Jessica plot line where like she got turned into a vampire when she was a virgin.
A virgin, exactly.
And so like every time she had sex afterwards, it would just be very painful.
I know.
I'm like, who wrote that?
Like, yeah, who wrote that? Who wrote that? It was honestly, yeah, that was like perverse, and it also horrified me because I was obviously a virgin when I was watching it for the first time.
Is it that?
I was 12.
That?
Yeah.
Is it gonna be that bad? Is it gonna be that
bad every single time? Oh God, what a crazy. What a crazy show. I don't know. I don't know. How do you feel like, because I feel like for people our age, especially, you know, the femmier amongst us, I feel like Twilight, and I don't want to dwell too much on Twilight because I am a vampire head, so like I don't want to consider Twilight to be this big cultural momentous vampire thing, but like realistically it was. How did that, because I guess we were both in the South at small schools, how did that manifest at school for you? Because for me, it like I never really got to have my like full vampire middle school scene phase because I went to a really small prep school, and like it was just lurking inside me.
No, yeah, I never really got to have like that phase of like, because I went to a private school, so I had uniforms, so and like they didn't let you wear makeup. Like the extent to my rebelliousness of like the uniform was like wearing like fishnet tights with the skirt, with the skirt. Like that was like the most you could take it. Like you couldn't do like intense makeup, you couldn't do anything. So like that was like the extent of what I could do. And it was also funny because like obviously all these middle schoolers are reading like Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, but it wasn't a problem until Breaking Dawn because
that's the one where they have
sex. So like literally you had to get your parents' permission from like how to like get assigned notes so you could check it out of the library and all this other stuff, and it was really funny. And my mom had to read it before I read it, and she like read it and she's like, okay, whatever, like
the sex scene, it's not very graphic, it's pretty much just one of those. I feel like the whole sex scene in Twilight is very like, and then we went into the room and ... next chapter. Like that's very much what it is.
Because like Stephenie Meyer's a Mormon. No, I back when I was in college, I had a radio show and like we did movies and like we did a Twilight episode, and it was like the first time I rewatched Twilight since like when it was like a big thing.
It's so Mormon. It's so literally. I rewatched all 4 of them. I like binged them in one day with my roommate during the pandemic, and it's like so like moralizing and weird. Like the emphasis that is placed on Bella Swan's virginity in those films, and it's weird because like, you know, virginity is an important part of the vampire lore. But the way Twilight does it, it doesn't have the like kind of like sexy forbidden fruit kind of nature that it does in like a, you know, the Nosferatu sense or whatever. It really just feels so Mormon.
Yeah, it's just and just watching the last movie, how it's just like pro-life like propaganda. I watched that and I was like, how did I not catch on to this before? Like, how did I not watch this and like think of all of these things before? Like,
I was watching it and it wasn't even crossing my mind, and then when I rewatched it as like an older and more shrewd person, like there were times where the movies literally just felt like really high budget like church movies or something, you know what I mean? Hi Lou.
Yeah, they kind of did, because
there are parts that
there's just so many parts of it that are just weird, like him watching her sleep and like him having like an emphasis on them getting married, because the timeline of them meeting is kind of like Romeo and Juliet. Like it's not 3 days or like however like that.
It's a short period of time.
But it's so short. Like they only know each other for months, and even though, like, he breaks up with her and, like, months and months and months go by, like, maybe 4 months, when you start back up again, it's literally, like, I feel like they've
she's
known
still
each
in
other.
high school.
Yeah, they've known each other for less than a year. And the only reason she wants to get married to him is because she wants to have
him.
sex.
She's just curious. And
like,
I know, it's just so... All of it happens in a really short period of time while she is in high school. And I feel like that... And he also just, I don't know, the way he talks, and I can't even think of the direct quotes, but I remember last time I saw it, there were moments that were so strikingly propagandistic when he's talking about, I'm old-fashioned, I like to be a gentleman, I like to do this, I like to wait for this, and it's just like...
Yeah, even if you read the descriptions of how she's dressed really modestly. Like,
she's dressed
so
really,
modestly.
really, really modestly, kind of throughout the entire thing, which is really... funny to me because a big part of how I feel about vampires is like they are very erotic and very sensual in a way that Twilight, even though every middle school girl was like horny for Edward, Twilight is pretty devoid of sensuality, and that's actually why I hate it as vampire media, because I think it takes away a lot of what I consider to be the lifeblood of vampiric media, which is like truly like ancient, like primal sensual urges. I know that sounds like something someone would say at like Burning Man or something, but I feel like it's really defanged vampiricism. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like it's very kind of like the monocrop kind of like American corn syrup blood version of vampire media.
Yeah, and like Stephanie Meyer is so weird too because like if she had it her way, like, vampires can't be black because, like, when you turn into a vampire, it sucks the melanin, like, the vampirification process.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's canon, but
is that canon?
Yeah.
Well, no, there was.
Yeah, but
Levant.
they forced that, and she was very adamant against it. But,
she
like,
was?
Yeah.
Wait, really? Yeah. Oh my god, that's like.
They were like, no, there can't be black vampires because it sucks all of the melanin out of your body. It's like when people, like when The Little Mermaid was like cast, I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
But like they cast someone that was black. They were like, actually, mermaids can't be black because they're underwater and they don't get any sun.
They don't get any sun, so like that just like isn't, I'm sorry, that's just like not possible. Like, you're talking about a fantasy movie where the most boring, mousy teenager is like fallen in love with like this like cultured 100-year-old like rich vampire guy, and you have a whole world built around this, but there can't just be like a black vampire.
Yeah. like that's where I crossed the line.
That's where it's just not real enough anymore. Yeah. Damn, I actually didn't realize that was, but that just like that doesn't shock me at all, because Stephanie Meyer seems pretty like honestly like a pretty horrible person.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised. I don't know. I also think it's actually, like, not to go too far down the politics rabbit hole, but I do think that there actually are, like, even just in this conversation, you know, talking about how, like, okay, True Blood, for example, like, both of these vampire guys both kind of came from these situations where they both did, like, pretty historically awful and, like, bad and white supremacist things. And another kind of underlying part of Twilight that has always made me more uncomfortable the more I think about it is the juxtaposition of the Cullens with the indigenous werewolves, because the Cullens are literally like a manifestation of colonizers.
Yeah.
They're like white as hell, they're sterile, they're wealthy, their ancestors, like the reason that Jacob hates them is because their ancestors literally murdered the indigenous people. Obviously they're in the wrong.
Exactly.
But it's weird because in terms of the morality of the movie, it's so swept under the rug as just this kind of like, oh yeah, these families have beef.
Yeah, this is just added.
Yeah, like, or it's just like, oh, these families just like have beef. It goes back a really long time. And then, but when you think about what it actually is, it's like, that's not beef. There's someone who's clearly in the wrong here. There's someone who's very, very, very in the wrong here. These are not like equal transgressions that they've done against each other. And I just find it weird that I feel like because vampiricism culturally in America is so associated with this kind of like Eastern or Scandinavian kind of understanding of what a vampire is, that it so often associates that with these really gnarly and like reactionary undercurrents. And I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that, especially considering, and now I'm going to go down my black metal fan, vampire girl history arc, but like a lot of that Eastern European vampire lore is either birthed from, you can shut me up at any point, is either literally birthed from a combination of like really ancient folklore, or the Kabbalah, or the Kabbalah Jewish mysticism, or a lot of it is, I mean, a lot of old vampire stories from Eastern Europe are actually anti-Semitic folk tales. They're about these people with big noses and fangs and dark hair and light skin who hide away in castles with all their money and pray and drink blood. And in Eastern Europe, through the Middle Ages, these were kind of cultural connotations of Jewish people, that they drank blood, that they were Kabbalist practicing sorcery. Obviously, we have bigger noses, dark hair, kind of stereotypically, and that is the origin of a lot of vampire stories. Mm-hmm. And I just think that it's really weird that the way that vampires have manifested in these really, really mainstream ways,
it's back to like
continues to be
Eurocentric.
It continues to be not only Eurocentric but like pretty fascistic. Mm-hmm. The Cullens are killing indigenous people. Bill in True Blood is a Confederate soldier. Jasper in Twilight is a Confederate soldier. And it's weird to me how it's continued to manifest as not just an anti-Semitic stereotype, but actively reactionary figures.
Yeah.
And I just think it's really weird how that's happening.
Yeah, and like they write it in there with like I can't recall True Blood, but like she just makes Jasper a Confederate soldier. There's like no lamenting anything that he's done. He's like actually kind of like proud of like some of the stuff he does. It's that should be part of like his like vampire journey, is like having to like deal with like the repercussions of like being part of something that's so fucking horrible.
Having to reckon with that, having to move through his life and realize at some point, oh, I was doing something very, very, very bad. But he doesn't. And I don't know if it's because part of me, if I were to be generous, I would say, oh, well, Stephenie Meyer just didn't feel like developing those characters enough. But, I mean, in retrospect, it seems like it's probably just because Stephenie Meyer didn't find that to be an important part of reckoning with a history.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, it's kind of like cash grabby, like, oh, that's kind of like interesting that you would do that, like something like to just add to like a layer to the backstory without like actually diving deeper into it.
I think the thing for me is like he could have just as easily been a Union soldier.
Exactly. What was the point?
There was no point necessarily. He could have just been a Union soldier, or he could have just been a cowboy of some kind. And like obviously all of those different kind of representations of like pastoral American life do have implications in the context of like colonialism. But like I just think the choice to make a lot of vampiric characters actively these things that are not just kind of like dastardly villains that want to suck your blood, but like historically bad people, is very strange, considering they're also meant to be portrayed as these sexy, desirable characters that you're supposed to like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like bring back that kind of vampire story. Like
the 90s had it going on.
Because like there's so many ways that you can do vampires and like make it interesting, and like there's so much lore and history that you can take from and like make your own. I mean, like everyone does it differently. I mean, like Stephenie Meyer made like glowing vampires, like shining in the sun. So like anyone can do anything, and I think it's interesting to think about like what would you do if you could live forever, and like but only you, like no one that you knew. Like, what is it, like a curse?
And if you wanted to bring someone with you into eternity, you would have to take their life.
Yeah. And there's this book that I have but I haven't read yet. It's about, because like most vampire books, it's like they find the one and then they spend forever together.
Forever and ever and ever.
Like, that's not realistic, because like in human relationships, like they go on repeatedly and it's about this girl that like agreed to be turned into a vampire, but then like broke up with their significant other, so now they're just living life as a vampire.
Yeah.
And like having to deal with like the decision that they made because they thought that, oh, I was going to be with this person forever, but forever is forever.
Forever. So 200 years is a long time. 2,000 years is a long time. Yeah, it's sorry, I have like the hiccups. I think I enjoy when that is a big theme of them, and that's one of the reasons that I think Only Lovers Left Alive is great, because that movie it's not about sucking blood and being sexy and, you know, listening to goth music. I mean, it is what they do in that movie, but it's more about the ways that they face eternity together and the way that they find kind of reinvigorate their own love for each other. And it's about really kind of at its core just, you know, one lifetime might as well be an eternity to you, respectively to how you're perceiving time. How do you get up in the morning and want to continue? How do you get up in the morning and find the reason to continue living and kind of, you know, renewed joie de vivre when you start to, as you move through time, you start to feel like you've seen it all. And you're around these same people, these friends and lovers that you're carrying with you through your life. How do you continue to hold on to those emotions with them as you move through time? I think that's why it's a really beautiful movie.
Have you seen The Good Place at all?
I've never seen The Good Place. That's like the show about heaven,
the afterlife,
right? Okay,
yeah.
sure.
Oh my god, I don't want to ruin anything unless you're gonna watch it.
I probably am not gonna watch it.
No, there's just like, there's a point like at the end where they finally do get to heaven or whatever, like they get to the good place, and it's like once you have forever and you're in the good place, like there's nothing left to actually live for, because it's like kind of like a double-edged sword, because like once you have forever, what's the point? Because you have forever.
And like, you know, it's kind of like part of what makes your favorite dinner so delicious is that you don't have it every night. The other 6 nights of the week you have to have something fine. You know what I mean? And I feel like forever and eternity is, you know, it is like that. It's like, you know, part of what makes good things good is the existence of bad things. Yeah, I don't know. I think these are my favorite things to talk about when it comes to vampires, because I feel like there's actually a lot of really beautiful kind of psychology and symbolism about how we manifest our own desires and how we manifest things like sexuality and attraction, and, you know, how we regard ourselves when we are acting upon those desires, whether we're experiencing guilt or feeling like it's some sort of punishment to ourselves or others. I don't know. I think there's a lot of really. There are things to me about vampires as one of the oldest existing characters in folklore across the globe. That really just comes down to the sublimation of your own desire. And I think vampires have historically been used in folklore for people to express their own desire. And I think that's my favorite vampire media is just about that, and not about shines in the sun, sexy, drinks blood, might have fought in the Civil War at some point. You know, I think I don't know. I'm rambling now because I've never done a podcast before, so I'm not being smart anymore. But you get what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Do you have one thing that you would consider to be like your favorite?
My favorite
favorite vampire thing? Or do we want to start getting into the music and I can start continuing to talk?
Okay,
I don't know.
We can get into music. We can get into music.
I'm sorry. I could really go
like,
on
no,
and on
we
about
could go on
this.
forever. Like,
We could go on for an eternity. I think about this constantly because it also does inform the music that I work on now. You know, I know this sounds larpy and stupid, but like vampirism is like a little bit of my identity artistically as a person. I connect to it a lot. I relate to it a lot. And so I do think about these things a lot because it informs my approach to art. And interpersonal relationships, romantic relationships mostly.
do you have any, like, you know, final, like, words or, like, things you want to plug? Like, also just, like, final, like, notes on, like, vampires in general?
Vampires in general. Probably nothing to mention now. You know, I wish I could say that my album or my music that I'm working on was further along so I could plug it, but, like, realistically I can't. Vampires will be a big part of it eventually. I promise. But yeah, I don't know. Thank you for inviting me. Do you have anything else?
I don't have any last words.
You don't have any final words?
Yeah, but thank you for doing this. I'm finally glad that we, like, literally.
I know, literally, finally did it after all this time.
I feel like it's been, like, so many months. I can't even remember when was, like, I don't even know what, like, the initial month was. I feel like it's so long ago.
You hit me up, I think it was, like, in March towards the end of the month, because I remember it was, like, not super far off from the Elsewhere show, but it was, like, around the time I had my birthday, and then I just had, like, some family stuff going on, and just one thing led to another, and now it's August.
Now it's August. Now we're here, and we did it.
And we did it.
That's all that matters.
Exactly, and we did it, and it's great, and I hope it's great, and I hope I didn't say anything too brain dead, but
No. This was a lot of fun.
You don't have to ask me twice to talk about vampires. So, you know, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for listening.
All right. Until next time, guys.
Until next time. Bleh, bleh.
As always, thanks for listening to the episode, guys. I will link all of the media that we talked about in the description, as always. I do not know if I'll link everything. I'll link my favorites because we did talk about a lot. This is actually just part 1 of this episode. Me and Leah went in and discussed a lot of her playlist, and we did a deep dive. I'll be releasing that part maybe next week. Who knows? I'll release it when I release it. But yeah, that is all. Till next time, guys.